And so, my dear ones, here we are on this wonderful day, blessed in the South Bay, open and receptive to whatever it is Spirit has in store for us now. And we know that it's a wonderful thing, whatever that is, because we've shown up. We want it. We desire it. We truly desire this, whether we like it or lump it or know it or believe it. That's why we're sitting here and I'm standing here. So, as we move into these deeper states, and we're using the model of the castle as is depicted by the great Saint Teresa and written about by Caroline Myss in her book Entering the Castle, we realize now that all we're talking about as we talk about the mansions are progressive states of deepening awareness, and that the mansions are simply sensations and vibrations and energy and power. And in the first one, we were asked to take a good look at ourselves. It wasn't fun at all, I can tell you that, for me anyway. To look at our power, our power plays and our need to control and our lack of humility and all that goes with the chaos that we encounter in that first mansion. And as you know, you and I will be revisiting it a lot because, we're trying to go deeper and then we wake up and realize, guess what, I need to go back now to the room of whatever. Of humility or whatever it is. And we will. We're in and out like the In-N-Out burger all the time. So expect that, and it's okay and it's normal. It's very normal. We're all doing it. Nobody's going straight from the one to the next to the next to the nobody. And if they tell you that, they're lying anyway. So we're in the second castle this week. We're in the second mansion, rather, this week. And it's the state and the place where we're willing and open to look into what inner vision is all about, what illumination is all about, the great need for spiritual companions, anam cardia. Cardia is the plural for friends, and anam cara is a soul friend. Anam cardia are soul friends. So Caroline Myss talks about the need for spiritual companions, as did the great Saint Teresa. And so we have a need for spiritual companions along the way. And then the other part of the triangle in this mansion is deepening our devotion to our source, our devotion to the divine. So we're looking at illumination, spiritual companions, and devotion. I'm very much simplifying it. I mean, this is just one bit of lettuce from your lettuce plate that I'm giving us today. The whole meal is in the book. Study it. Join class and we'll be going deeper into it, I can tell you that. But anyway, we look at this thing called inner vision and illumination, and it's simply our ability now and our recognition of the fact that really everything is light. Everything, the energy that everything is light energy. It's light. It's all about light. It's all about radiance. It's all about you and I wakening up to the fact that we've been called to be luminaries. Believe it or not, we're all called to be luminaries. That means bright lights of blessing wherever we are. And so when we recognize that within ourselves, first and foremostly, then we prepare ourselves to get into sacred service by being that vision of light wherever we are. And so that inner vision and that illumination that we get as a result of our going consciously into the state of grace that we're always in when we extrapolate ourselves from the exterior world and enter into the interior world, when you ask for guidance and light, it is given. It is given. When you ask for guidance and light, it is given. So be prepared for that. And so what happens then in this second mansion is that the light shows up our shadowy sides, our shadowy parts, our shadowy areas. But it's a good thing. We're comfortable with that. We don't get all scared and say, see, I'm not ready. We don't do that because we're open to being guided and protected and guarded by the light that is around us, within us, and above us, and below us, and so on. So don't make this a hard or a harsh thing or a very so difficult thing that you just want to back out every turn and twist. You may want to back out every turn and twist, that's okay, but be comfortable with it and say, I know I want to, but I'm not going to. So the whole idea is to be comfortable with what shows up. And it's not going to be pretty, all of it, I can tell you that. So when the shadows come up, the light will dissipate those shadows. But if you need to do more work in the first mansion, then come out of the second, go back into the first, do your work there, finish your work there, and go back in. So, and she talks about, Caroline Mason, this one, if you still have that terrible longing and need for recognition, terrible longing and need for appreciation, terrible longing and need for limelight and all of that, get out of the second, go back to the first, take a look at that, finish up your business there, and go back into the second degree. It's like degrees, you know. And this is common and normal to all. And understand it, everybody's doing that, from the Dalai Lama down, from the Dalai Lama over, up, in between, whoever. Whatsoever. If you read the stories of all of the mystics, it was dark and arid and dry and so on a lot of the time as they pursued their deep, intimate relationship with their source, light. So worry not about it. It's part of life and living on this plane, and you're going to see that, feel that, hear that, but this time you can say no to it all. And say that was then, this is now. Not going to give in to that one. Those shadows will not have charge over me. Now she says it's more than taking responsibility for your life. We can all take responsibility for our life and say, oh yes, I know I'm responsible, and leave it at that. Well, what good is that? We have to take responsibility and then do something about it. So she says, don't take responsibility, stand in your authority. Stand in your authority, in the authority of the truth of your being, the light that you are, the guidance you're given, the availability of all that you need and require in order to flourish and thrive spiritually and consequently in every other way. So it's about taking authority, standing in authority, and being the authority. So as we move in, we shouldn't be afraid or disappointed or upset about seeing the shadows that still remain and cause us to be less than we are or less than we can be. We want to see those shadows so we can look at them and say, yeah, I know, you're mine, you know, you're the stepchildren I created, but guess what, you're mine, so I'm embracing you now. It's okay. I'm upping you into real children status and not stepchildren anymore. So come to the light, come to mama, you're okay, all is well. I'm not going to push you aside anymore. You're welcome here. And then not to be perturbed about it, to hold your ground, stay grounded, stay poised, and not be disturbed and knocked off balance. So this is all going to happen as we get more and more illuminated, and we're going into the deeper inner vision that points these things out to us in a lovely way, in a safe way, in a gentle way. But you can be in a loving, gentle place and still feel you've been slapped up by the side of the head. It's okay. It's all right. Okay. Now she deeply goes into the necessity for spiritual companions along the way, because no one has to make this journey alone. No one has to make this journey alone, nor can you. We all need that village, no matter how small the village is. But when she talks about spiritual companions, she spells it out very clearly as to who and what spiritual companions are. She says that spiritual companions are people who get together in circles of power. They are soul friends. Soul friends. They're interested in each other's soul and supporting that soul and its light and the freeing up of its light. Think of light this way. The light within us all is as strong and as brilliant and as bright as it's ever going to be. But for most of us, most of the time, it's like a big block, encapsulated in a big block. Picture a block of ice, full of water, but it's encapsulated in the block. It cannot flow. It's a block of ice. Same with the light within us. So what is required is melting. Melting. We begin the melting in the second mansion of the block of light so that it can gush and flow and saturate and permeate the very beingfulness of us. But, you know, I find for myself that's a very helpful picture for me to see, oh, I'm frozen. I see the light is frozen within me. I need to do a bit of melting around here. So get out the torch and start doing it, whatever that torch is going to be, and so that the light can flow. So companions, soul companions, are the ones who support the flowing, the melting of the ice. They gather in circles of power and they say things like, okay, I've got to move through something now, and I need your support and I need your help. I've got to move in, I need illumination, I need divine guidance, and I want your help in it. Support me in my ability to do this. And so what spiritual companions do is they support the growth of the soul, and they support you staying poised when you are open to your shadowed self. And they support you remaining sane when the light begins to illuminate you, and so that you don't think you're going crazy, because all of a sudden I become one with nature. Oh my gosh, let me tell you about this experience. I was out in nature today, and all of a sudden everything was just one great big thing, and I was part of it, and there was only one thing happening, and it was so vibrant, and it was so bright, and it was so vital, and I felt like I was taking off. And they're the ones that say, yeah, you had that experience, you weren't crazy, you're not going insane. That's what happens when you're engaged in a spiritual unfoldment on the path of illumination. Sure. And they're the ones that help to keep us sane in those moments and support the growth of the light of illumination that's happening within us. They help to keep us poised. They help to keep us grounded when the light begins to emerge. And those are the kind of companions we want to hang out with, and we all need them. She said it's very, very lonely to go it alone, because when you share experiences like that with people who are not awakened to that extent yet, they're going, oh, she must be smoking, sniffing something, or I don't know what's going on with her, but she needs to get herself together, or whatever. She said most people, what they do in friendship groups, here's the way it goes, they get together not to celebrate their light, but to celebrate their woundedness. And she holds no punches. She said they get together to celebrate their woundedness. They take out their knives and they scrape their bloody scabs of woundedness off each other. And they wallow in the pain of it all. And that's how they think they're supporting each other. She said they hang out in circles in graveyards of the living dead. She goes on. She gets the picture loud and clear. You're going, ew. You want to back away from that. And then you think about it and you think, oh yeah. Listen to all the people when they get into groups recite their organ. You have organ recitals. Oh, the hip, the knee, the liver, the kidneys, the whatever. She says, steer clear of people who are into organ recitals. It doesn't help you or them, and enough. So she said you want to get into these vibrant circles of light, circles of true support, circles of true celebration of the truth of your being, and supporting that and only that, and have no time for the scabbiness of wounds and all the rest of it. We don't want to be dressing each other's wounds. We want to be addressing each other's light. That's what we need to do. And that's what she said a spiritual companion is. That's a spiritual companion. And no less than that, because in a spiritual companionship group, you don't want any agreement for the negativity that's going on in your life, because that doesn't serve you or anyone else. You want positive reinforcement. You want the affirmation of, okay, you're down in a deep, dark hole right now. Let's see how we can all get together and work to get you up and out of it and back on track, because you can do this. And we're going to be here for you. And even, she says, if it's at a distance, maybe somebody's going through a very bad phase in their lives, and you say to them, you wake up here and you know that you have the support of this group with you all the time as you're moving through this. And in fact, every day at noon, know that we are the light bringers and the light bearers, and we are showering you with the light of the truth of your own being at noon every day. Tune in, plug in, and feel the energy rising, because it is. This is the kind of way, she said, we can help each other as spiritual, unfolding light beings. No more time now for nonsense. No more time for messing around in the shadows. No more time for all of the celebrations of woundedness that we all get into, and God knows we're all guilty of that. We are all guilty of sitting around and moaning and groaning and belly aching and telling each other, oh my God, you poor thing, you don't deserve that. He's a horrible, dreadful person. And she is such a you-know-what-it. Really. And you so good, you don't deserve that. Really, when I see that one, I'm going to give that one a piece of my mind. They've no business treating my friend like that. That's not going to help anybody or anything. Not at all. And you're certainly not being the light bearer that you're born to be, if that's what's going on. Because guess what? She stresses this, that part of illumination, the biggest part of it, is seeing God in every single detail. Every single detail. And to do this, she says, you have to slow down, pay attention, become present, because you're going to have to do an awful lot of looking deep and deep and deep into some persons, places, and things before you can see God in the details. But you have to be able to go there and do this, because God is in the details, all of them, big, little, and small. God is in the details. And it's up to you and it's up to me to discover them and unfold them. And you'll only do that when you're coming from the illumination that is within you, and it's divine guidance and wisdom and grace. You cannot do this on your own, and neither can I. Left to our own brothers, we are not going to do that. We are going to celebrate woundedness because we've learned it well. We are black belters at it. We've learned it well. We have become so familiar with everything in the shadows because we've done all our shadow work and everything else. For years now we've been doing shadow work. Now she says it's time to move into the light and do the light work. Enough with the shadows. So God in the details is where you and I are called in every aspect of our life and living, in every minute of our day, to be. Finding the light in the details, all of them, and knowing that when we call upon that power and call upon that presence, it is a very real and it is a very quick and present help. Once we know that, once we trust that, once we believe that. And so we do need these key people, need only be a few, but a key group of people in our lives that are going to keep us on our spiritual toes. And when we become less than ourselves, remind us to come higher. Remind us to come higher, and that we're speaking nonsense, or we're feeling nonsense, or we're behaving nonsensically, one way or another. That's not why we're here. That's not who we are, what we are. We're not here for that kind of an experience, or to add to that kind of experience in somebody else. So it's a big challenge this week. We have to be on the lookout for God and all of the details this week, and be open to the divine illumination that is always available to us. And then the stress is devotion is extremely important. We are called to be mystics in the world. Mystics in the world. Most of today's mystics are mystics in the world. Very few are going off to live isolated lives away from the maddened crowd. Very few are doing that. And those that are doing it do it for a time, and then they come back into the world again. So we are mystics, as she says, without monasteries. Mystics without monasteries. That's what we're called to be. And nobody gets off the hook. It's not just for the nuns and the monks and the priests and the holy ones that are a bit odd anyway and go off and live that kind of life. And sure, what do they know? They're not out in the world. What do they know? It's for every single person on the plane to be a mystic, to release that mystical power of light from within themselves, and to be those mystics in the world, in the midst of all of the chaos, in the midst of all of the ups and downs and the merry-go-round and everything else. It's a calling. And let me tell you, there are some of us in this room who cried ourselves to sleep last night. We're so sad and so upset and so estranged from this life and this world and so on, and are thinking, I don't know. I really don't know. I don't know if I'll ever return from this or come back from this. I don't know. Some of us in this room are in those places. I'm saying to you especially, oh yes you will, and oh yes you can, and yes this too is passing. And life will change, and life will become the wonderful, lovely thing that you thought you had once upon a time. But it'll become even more better. More better. You wouldn't think that I was once an English teacher as well as everything else. More better says it for me. More better it does. It's a more better way of saying it's going to happen. It's happening as we speak. That's why you're sitting here. That's why you're sitting here. You see, it's not as black as you think, or you wouldn't be sitting here. Not as black as you think, but that's okay. Embrace the blackness. Embrace the blackness. Embrace the sadness. Embrace the disappointment. Embrace it. Embrace it. Assuage it. Assuage it. Love it out of yourself. Love it out of yourself. Be patient with it, be kind with it, be compassionate with it, and love it out of yourself. You see, here's the thing. For your outlook to change, your in-look must first change. Your in-look must first change before your outlook can change. So it has to come from within out. So devotion to the source of your being is a necessity in your life. Every single day have at least one spiritual practice that you are totally devoted to, and you wouldn't miss it no more than you'd miss brushing your teeth. And you know how awful it is if you miss brushing your teeth. Maybe you forgot a toothbrush or something, and it's 1 o'clock in the morning and you're in a hotel, and you forget that you can go down and call the office and they'll give you this stupid little thingy piece of stuff that's supposed to be toothpaste and a tiny little toothbrush, and you forget that, and then you're going like this with whatever you're doing. It's not a good feeling. Well, we should have the same feeling about missing our spiritual practice if we do. And what do you need for a spiritual practice? A mind, a heart, and a soul. You got those. No excuse. No excuse. So tune in throughout the day. Tune in and say, well, how's my light at the moment? How's the power of the light within me at the moment? Am I dim? What way is the bulb on? Is it on its high fluorescent stuff, or is it down at the first little ember? Where am I? Do I need to vamp it up, ramp it up, whatever it is? And whatever it is you need to do, do it. God by means of you is on the move, remember. Deeper into the great self of yourself as you discover the joy and the fun and the creativity of what it is to be a light being. It's super fun, believe it or not. It doesn't mean all the nonsense goes away. It doesn't. You just feel differently about it. You perceive it differently. And you think differently about it. And it doesn't have the grip over you, the control over you that it once had. It's not in charge of you. It's not the boss of you. It's the other way around. You're the boss of it. It's a beautiful place to be. So we need our companions as a help to remind us of the journey we've said we're on, we've agreed to, and to support us when our light is a little dimmer than it need be, or when it's about ready to go out. It never does go out, but sometimes it feels like it does go out, but it can't. If it went out, you'd cease to be, and the whole universe would implode upon itself, and chaos all round would reign. So that's how important you are, and that's how miraculously, amazingly brilliant you are too. So rejoice, rejoice, my dear ones. It's Good News Day. And this week, you and I are going into giving this a chance. We're going to take a real look at what it is to be a spiritual companion and to have a spiritual companion. And it would do to examine our conscience of what kind of a spiritual companion we have been. We're going to be open to that inner illumination, and we're going to love up in our source much more than ever before. Is that what we're going to do? Yes. Okay then, and so it is. I'm knowing it's happening.